to our next episode of Coffee with Carly. I'm so happy to be joined by Deidre Watts from Genworth. How are you?
Happy. How are you?
I'm good. So, as is typical on Coffee with Carly, I asked you to bring your favorite coffee mug and share with us why it's your favorite.
Who doesn't love the peanuts?
Nice.
I mean, look at how cute this mug is. This is actually, I use this when my kids use it. It's one of our hot cocoa mugs for when we have snow down here. And so I just thought this was really appropriate for today's conversation. Even though there's no snow, it's 100 degrees.
Do you have iced coffee in there today?
I'm not a big iced coffee person.
Yeah.
I like classic coffee.
So I brought a coffee mug today. I actually brought one of my girls. So my husband actually made the mug, but that's when they were littler than they are now. Now they're older and home a lot.
Now the handprints take up the whole mug, right?
Yeah, exactly. So our topic today is navigating the evolution of marketing technology. And you are somebody that just jumped out to me as a great person for sort of us to have this conversation together. Let's kick things off by just giving a little introduction about who you are and what you do now and where you're living.
Sure. So I'm Deidre Watts. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Genworth Financial, as you stated before. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. Again, this heat wave. Let's talk about a little bit about me, where I've been. So I started out in, believe it or not, on the agency side, so and I ran my own agency for a couple years before getting into startups. So I started Elephant Insurance and Compare.com. And now I said, hey, I've done the startup, and let's go to a Fortune 500 company and turn it around. So at Genworth, we are changing the structure of how they do business from a brick and mortar through agents to direct to consumer. So it's really evolutionary in the life and long-term care space, because although a lot of people do it, they really push through agents. So not as direct of a leader as what it is be. So this is a huge opportunity to really do a lot of foundational work, very similar to a startup.
It is. Wow. And I imagine there's a lot of impact from technology in that change as well. We'll get to that. From a career path perspective, I mean, you talked a little bit about where you've been in your career path. When you look back from a marketing technology perspective, can you recall the first time you really ran into something that you would consider to be marketing technology? And when was that and what was it?
Well, I don't want to date myself too much, right?
That's fair.
Think back to even where people started building websites, right? That's a new form of technology where people are saying, okay, well, how processes and, improve sales, right? This is another opportunity for us to sell products and services. So I would say that I was at the forefront of a .com era. Also working in these small agencies and these boutiques, you were able to dabble and play a lot. So you could go thinking about just email. People are sending emails, and you think about how the basis of technology is really taking techniques and skills and methods and processes and putting them together in a giant puzzle to improve what you're trying to do, what's your objective, right? Mostly selling a product or service. And then when you get into the marketing technology, right, that's when they are saying that, it's the stack of all these things together. And if you look at the stacks today, if anybody's been on Chief Martech, I'm sure they're gone cross-eyed and they can't breathe. I mean, it's gone from basic, just an email, to a retargeting ad, to programmatic, to everything's mobile and it's personalized, and we need predictive modeling. I mean, it has grown, not just sideways, but up and down vertical. And so I think back to, just starting out, being at that forefront of really, working with these companies to take the plunge of saying, I know you don't think digital is a thing, but I promise, let's try it. And so you just have to go off the test and learn, and I've really kind of taken that throughout my entire career path of, we're just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And so I would say, going back to starting at one thing, and then you get into, analytics, right? The Google Analytics, and now it's Google 360, and there's attribution and all kinds of things. But, I would say definitely my beginning was definitely in a website, startup.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to think about, and for those that entered the world of marketing, just even in the last 10 years, I think might not even recognize how new so much of the technology is and how incredibly far it's come pretty quickly. I mean, I definitely remember thinking way back when, well, they should be doing this and this and this, and I felt like it took forever to get there, but now we're getting there, and in the grand scheme of things, I guess it didn't actually take that long. But just looking back to, Excel spreadsheets were how you did any reporting, and when it was even possible to see that somebody opened an email, it was so exciting. You had any kind of feedback.
And I think too, you bring up a good point of, the pendulum has swung in a very different way. So like when the internet hit and everything was out, and Facebook and everything was everywhere, right? And then people started getting pissed and upset, and all this stuff with Cambridge Analytics and Facebook, and now it's swinging the other end with CCPA and all of these privacy things. And so there's going to be new technology that we're over here that have to adjust to over here, very much like us, right? We're in a non-COVID world to a COVID world, and we have to think about what are the limitations and restrictions that the new expectation is going to be going forward. And, thank goodness we live in a world where people are already thinking of these things and doing these things. I mean, new technology is popping up all the time.
Right.
But those are things that we constantly need to be thinking about. Our lives have been disrupted significantly, and how is your business, whether you're thriving or thriving, going to make it moving forward?
That's right. I like the analogy of the disruption, and I was just talking to somebody the other day saying, "Gosh, can't wait for our next disruption, and may it be a positive one, where it's good choices that we have to make." Right. You really seem to recognize that one tech stack doesn't solve the problem for every company. That there's sort of a unique mix based on, I think, the company that you're working with, what kind of audience you have. What sort of goes into that decision process for you of figuring out what technology is right for your given situation?
Well, I think from being at, back to the pendulum analogy, right? So where you go into, it's an open market, not much regulation, to one that is highly, highly regulated, right? That requires a completely different thought process. It's not, your tech stack isn't just, like a core of 4 or 5 pieces. Your tech stack is 10 because, the government's involved in the regulations, and you have to be in that world. So, although there's over 5,000 things that you can do, it really starts to narrow it down. And then there's other ones that are very, hey, we can have open source, we can do whatever we want, woo, great. And you can play around and figure out what it is, and you have the ability and the opportunity to say, hey, if this one works, great. If this one doesn't work, I can move just like that. On that opposite end, move like that. So you really have to take that careful thought and consideration. But I think it's really, taking the time to sit back and say, what does the business need to be where we want to just not just grow today, but really thinking about tomorrow. I think about where are we going to be in 5 years, and what does that look like? I know the landscape's going to change. I know people are going to change. Everything is going to change, but what's going to be able to change with me? And the technology is important, but also the relationships, right? Because it's like, hey, I got this great piece of technology, but there's also an implementation and a maintenance that you have to continuously work with these companies. And if you don't see their product development line and where they're going, or if they can pivot quickly, that should kind of be a red flag of saying, ooh, like, am I, oh, see you later, thanks, the small fish in the big pond.
Right.
It's not where you necessarily want to be if you're trying to rolling and constantly moving.
Right, it's so true. And I've seen that from you in action in terms of thinking about not just what's the checklist of sort of feature alignment between the platform and what we need, but also is there sort of a cultural fit between the vendors that we're working with and our existing team, and do we want to still be working with this company in 5 years, which Yeah. Of course, you never know if they get acquired by another company and everything changes, as you said.
Correct.
It's all, it's the best decision based on the information we have at the present time, right?
At the right time, absolutely. Yep.
So when you look at making a big technology overhaul based on a shift in strategy, how do you think about the team and the skill sets within the team and how to kind of manage the platform that way?
I think, it's funny thinking about kind of the days of marketing. I need this person. And now it's like we make up our own titles and we come up with our own roles. Like, when was there ever like a chief people officer? I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know, or, chief, revenue. Like, that was never around, or growth. It was you were the CFO, the COO, like those kind of things. And if I think about just the evolution of where marketing has gone, you still need a lot of those traditional roles of like, you still need creatives, right? Somebody's got to design something. You also need people who can operate these platforms or email or paid search and working with things around that. But you also need front-end developers. You also need UX designers. You need data science and analytics people on your team, copywriters. But then, in parallel, you also need legal, compliance, risk. Like, they were always kind of on the end. The more you get them involved in where you're going and what you're doing, the much faster, not only are you going to make changes within the organization, but there's also going to be bigger changes as a whole. I mean, think about, just some of the things that we need to change on a government level. You need a team. It's not usually done with one person, like, yay! So thinking about that whole agile environment of bringing them all, there are business owners and who runs it makes these decisions, but it's not the typical marketing person anymore.
That's right. And then there's sort of the opportunity to grow your existing team, right? And sort of identifying, is anybody capable and or interested in turning into something they're not today?
Eager to learn is always, I know they say, curiosity killed the cat, but I'm like, I'm going on my 9 lives. Because that's the thing, it's like you're problem solving, and you want to figure out, like, why didn't this work? Why? What if I change this? What if I do that? And so that's just kind of me as my nature and how I challenge my team to say, well, what does that mean? Tell me what you think, and how can we know that that's right?
That is our go-to feature as well. When we're looking for people, it's the problem solvers, not because they have to, but because they want to figure it out, So now, to close it out, I'm going to do just a couple rapid questions. So you just have to give a one-word answer and don't think too hard. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, dog or cat person?
Dog.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Fall or spring?
Fall.
Morning or night person?
Morning.
Nice.
For sure. 5 a.m.
Me too.
It's my only me time,
Exactly.
That's all I get.
Exactly. I am with you 100%.
For my kids too. So what does that say? I don't know.
You got to value the time you can find when you can find it.
Absolutely.
Well, Deidre, thank you so much for joining me. This was an excellent conversation. I loved it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much for having me, Carly. I appreciate it. Take care.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers.